Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network, coming to you from the TeacherCast studios since 2011. Join us each week as we bring you the latest educational news, EdTech updates, and hottest interviews with today's most influential leaders in education. And now, for your host, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury, and welcome to Digital Learning Today. On today's show, we're going to be talking all about STEM education, and I have a fantastic guest to talk about the world champions of VEX Robotics. We're going to be learning not only how you can bring robotics and STEM education into your classrooms, how you can get some great funding for it, but also the long-lasting applications that your students are going to be able to use once they're in a robotics program. So stick around. We got a lot of great things happening today on Digital Learning Today. My guest today is the Vice President of Global Education Strategy at VEX Robotics. I want to welcome to the show today, Mr. Jason McKenna. Jason, how are you today? Welcome to TeacherCast.
I am doing very well. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. I had a chance a few weeks ago at FETC to check out all the great stuff. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on these days over at VEX Robotics.
We have a lot of things going on right now, particularly at this moment at VEX Robotics. Obviously, we have the VEX Robotics World Championships coming up in Dallas, Texas, at the end of April and early May. That'll consist of over 20,000 students from over 70 countries descending upon Dallas to compete in the VEX Robotics World Championship. It's a wonderful competition, but more importantly, it's a wonderful exhibition of student learning, of student collaboration, of student agency, and all those things that we try very hard to do in our classrooms every single day. It's just great to see it on display over the course of those 2 weeks. As part of that, we have our VEX Robotics Educators Conference, something that we're very proud of. We started 2 years ago. That's an opportunity from STEM educators from all over the world to come and learn about some of the wonderful things that we're doing at VEX, to see all that's going on at VEX World with the VEX Robotics World Championships, and to learn and connect with, grow from other teachers from all over the world. We'll have teachers from the United States, we'll have teachers from Europe, we'll have teachers from the Middle East, we'll have teachers from Africa, from Australia. So we're really excited to bring that global perspective to STEM education to Dallas, and again, have the opportunity to meet and learn from everyone there.
I love the fact that all of the students are getting a chance to compete in an international arena and have the opportunity to meet people from many cultures, all focused on the same thing, STEM education. Talk to us a little bit about how a school gets involved. If a school is listening to the show for the first time and they're looking to figure out how to bring VEX into their school district, why would they want to do that? What are the advantages, and how do you get started?
Well, in terms of the why, the story that I tell all the time is I fell in love with STEM education. I fell in love with robotics, not because I have a background in computer science. I do not. Not because I have a background in engineering. I do not. Not because I'm a person that likes to tinker and fix things and things like that. I'm not. I'm a humanities guy. I like to sit and read, and listen to music when I'm at home. But I fell in love with it because of all the things that were difficult for me to do in my classroom, to foster true collaboration amongst my students, to really drive engagement amongst my students, and have them to look for different solutions to problems, to approach problems different ways, as opposed to me always having to really push them to do that. These are all things, when I introduced STEM into my classroom, came naturally to the students. And that's when I fell in love with it. So if you're looking to bring meaningful learning experiences to your students, if you're looking to engage your students and really solve the apathy problem that we have in our schools, I've written recently about how, the move to ban cell phones from schools, that's really a problem with engagement as opposed to actual cell phones and stuff. So if you're really looking to solve the engagement problem with your students in your school, STEM and educational robotics and computer science is a great way to do that. And then when you're wrapped around the competition aspect of that, that's also a great organizer to really propel things to the next level. And it's not necessarily about competition per se. Instead, it's those things that I mentioned before. It's student agency. When you go to VEX Worlds and you talk to students about the robot or their engineering notebook or those types of things, they can't wait to talk to you about those things because it's their robot. It's not a robot that their mentor told them to make. It's not a robot that their teacher told them to make. It's their design. It's their drivetrain. It's their manipulator. It's their ideas and thoughts that they came up as a group together. That's what went to form and build that robot. And that's why they can't wait to show it off. So again, student agency is something that we've been talking about for years in education, but how do you really do that? It's very easy and much easier to do it with robotics and with a competition, as opposed to doing like in a regular 6th grade math class that I was trying to teach, for example. And again, the collaboration aspect, the thing that I love about VEX World, our co-founder of VEX, Bob Mimlich, and I, we always walk around, and Bob's an engineer, so he loves looking at the robots, and he'll point out to me, look how they're using this gear train here, and look how they built this manipulator. And it's so very cool, and he loves talking to the kids about it. But I'll say, hey, look, Bob, they're all wearing the same shirt. Because I love that, right? Because that's a student that has now found their group, their niche that they now belong to, and that's going to help bring them to school every single day, and that's going to help them learn. So even if they don't want to ever grow up and become an engineer, this experience is really going to propel their education forward.
And when we think of STEM education, I know many families think of it as a middle school and high school activity, but VEX has a program now that's spanning from pre-K up through grades 12. Talk to us a little bit about how you can get involved with robotics in the early years.
Yeah, so we're very proud of our products like VEX 1, 2, 3 and VEX Go, like you just mentioned, that really target those younger students. And we did that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, we wanted to build a continuum all throughout K-12, as you mentioned, because just like with math or just like with science, you purchase a K-8 series, not a K-1 math series, right? And the reason why you do that is so that students have that scaffold experience across grade levels. But more importantly, you have teachers that are able to build capacity. So the problem that you have oftentimes in many schools is everyone is doing these pockets of STEM and they're all doing something different. And as a result of that, the teachers can't collaborate. They can't learn from one another. What we want to do by building out a continuum is we wanted to give students an opportunity to scaffold their experience from year to year, but also give teachers the opportunity to build capacity amongst themselves and to learn from one another. The tool that you mentioned a moment ago, the platform VEX 1, 2, 3, we're so proud of that because what it's really shown is that students are able to learn computer science at 4, 5, and 6. And what the research tells us is by being able to reach those students at that age, they don't form that negative perception about computer science and STEM that so many students unfortunately do. And then to your point, by the time they get to middle school and high school, they're really not interested in taking that STEM elective or joining that STEM after school club, or they're disengaged in the classroom because they view this as something that doesn't appeal to them. The other thing that we've done with VEX 1, 2, 3, I had the wonderful opportunity a couple of weeks ago to go to Portland, Oregon, and with Dr. Maya Israel from the University of Florida, present our research on VEX 1, 2, 3, talking about its accessibility. So being able to reach students with special needs, being able to reach all students. That's our goal, of course, with STEM, is to broaden participation. VEX 1, 2, 3, with the multiple means that students can interact with that robot, has been shown to be an effective way to be accessible to all students. So really proud of that also.
If a school district is starting out with all of this, depending on the age, of course, would you recommend them starting with 1, 2, 3, even if they're not in the younger grades? Because they got to start somewhere. Or can a school, let's say they want to do this in 4th and 5th and 6th grade, can they jump into the continuum at any spot? Yeah,
that's a great question. And the thing that I say all the time, like one of the best perks of my job is I get to see STEM being implemented all over the world. And as I tell folks, the only thing that is consistent about it is that it's inconsistent. Everybody is doing something different, right? Some people are doing STEM every day for an entire school year. Some people are using our robots to teach computer science and doing physical computing. Some people are doing after school clubs. Some people are doing summer club, and a combination thereof, right? So the other reason why we wanted to build this continuum is we wanted to give students, our schools, different entry points depending upon where they were able to implement and begin with STEM. So if you want to roll it out K-12, like a local school district here, Woodland Hills is doing, and have STEM embedded into your regular school day, you could do that. If you want to get started with a middle school after school club, you can do that. Now, to your point about VEX 1, 2, 3, that's a fantastic point. We know as educators, our job is to meet our students at their instructional level, not to meet them at an artificial level. So if you have a middle school classroom that is just getting started with coding, you can get started with something like VEX Go or VEX 1, 2, 3, and that's a great way to introduce students to computer science. Or I was just talking to a school yesterday, you can use VEX 1, 2, 3 to begin computer science with your students. And then if you want to then go into VEX IQ, you can do that because it's all the same coding platform. And you can also use something like VEX Code VR, which is our virtual robot, to introduce students beginning, really in second grade all the way up through high school to get them started with STEM that way and then progress into the physical robot. So these tools are there for you to be able to find out where your students are and what your teachers are comfortable with, and then begin your STEM journey that way.
One of the things that I would think any barrier to getting into VEX is the professional development. Talk to us a little bit about how VEX supports teachers who are looking to learn robotics so they can then pass that skill on to their students.
Yeah, the research is very clear that the biggest barrier of entry for most STEM programs is building the capacity amongst the teachers. So we've spent a lot of time over the course of the last 5 years trying to solve that problem. One of the things that I'm most proud of during my tenure at VEX is we've certified over 17,000 teachers all over the world in STEM education with our professional development platform. So our brand promise at VEX is you purchase the robot. The STEM labs, which are your lessons that you can use with the robot, are always free. And the intro professional development is also always free. So you will have that intro course at pd.vex.com where you can go learn about VEX IQ. You can go learn about VEX 1, 2, 3. How do I pair the robot to my device? How do I turn the robot on? Everything that comes in the kit. How do I get started with VEX Code? All of those questions are answered for you. So you're not just surviving in your STEM classroom, but you're actually thriving in your STEM classroom. We want to put you in a position to do that. And then once you get certified, now you have an opportunity to enter our professional learning community. There you can interact with me, our entire team here, our software team, and teachers from all over the world, and really take your STEM teaching to the next level.
I think with the way that education is going these days, funding is certainly a consideration. If I was a school district and I had, I was building a team of 20 students, what would I need to get started? Am I looking at buying one kit? Am I looking at buying one kit per student, one kit per a couple students? How can I start to figure out a budget for a program like this?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question directly, but I want to talk about the funding thing because that's a very important point that you bring up right there. The thing that I talk to schools all the time, and schools have a budget, just like every household has a budget, everything else like that. We all have to make decisions around priorities and things like that. But what I say to school leaders, what I say to MOEs at countries is, what's the price of not doing it, right? What is the cost of not doing it? What is the cost of not introducing young students to meaningful learning experiences around STEM and computer science? So now those students view themselves as someone that cannot excel in a STEM field, or computer science is not for them. What's the cost of that? What is the cost of not bringing students together in a friendly atmosphere at a robotics competition in an urban school district to give these students the opportunity to know one another and to meet one another and provide them an opportunity to get to know one another in that type of environment? What's the cost of not doing that? What's the cost of not providing students with meaningful learning experiences that allow them to be engaged and excited about coming to school? And as I talked about with the kids all wearing the same shirt, giving them that experience where they have that sense of belonging. All the reports coming out, especially post-COVID, about student mental health. What's the cost of not doing that? And then talking about me personally, my 15th year teaching, I was burned out. I was tired of teaching diagramming sentences. I was tired of teaching solving one step equal. I was tired of doing all that. I needed something new, and STEM changed my teaching career. What's the cost of not engaging your teachers that same way also? We talk about teacher burnout. We talk about teachers leaving the profession. Again, what's the cost of not doing that? So when you're talking about cost, there's two sides of that coin. I think it's important that we address both of them. Now, to your question specifically, if I'm just looking to get started, if you're looking to get started with VEX, one thing you can do is you can go on vr.vex.com right now. You can get started with VEX Code VR completely and totally free. You can see our curriculum, you can see our teacher professional development there, and you can code our virtual robot in that coding language, the exact same coding language that you'll use with our physical robot, to get started with VEX, to see the resources that we provide for you, to see the assistance we provide for you, to make you feel really comfortable about getting started with STEM. Because most teachers, like me, don't have a background in engineering, don't have a background in computer science, so they feel uncomfortable getting started. This is a great, lightweight, free way for you to get started on your STEM education journey. After that, we have different bundle sizes and different things like that. So you can get started with VEX 123. A 123 kit is I think a VEX 123 kit costs $125, so a very low cost there. VEX Go also is a very low cost. So you can get started there at a very low price point, and then kind of build your program from there. In terms of if I have 20 students and I want all 20 students engaged, this is another great thing that you can do with VEX Code VR, is you can give some of your students a hands-on experience with like VEX Go, for example, at a much lower price point, and have other students at VEX Code VR, which is totally free. And then after a few weeks switch, you have some students getting the computer science aspect, other students getting the hands-on STEM aspect. And what VEX Code VR does is really allow you to get more out of your physical robotics kit using them that way. So we've tried a lot of different ways to lower the barrier of entry for teachers and for students as they get started on their STEM journey.
Would you be able to share a success story? I know you have the opportunity to work with school districts, students, teachers. What's one of your favorite success stories, best memories of working with young students?
I'll give you a couple. Again, I have the opportunity to travel a lot. I had an opportunity to meet a team in Vietnam where there's a gentleman, Mr. Son is his name, S-O-N. Great guy. He is a former engineer at Caterpillar. He's very passionate about bringing STEM education to Vietnam. So he travels to rural Vietnam, so some of the most rural areas in the world, and is able to train teachers on computer science using VEX Code VR, using the offline version of VEX Code VR because these schools do not have the internet, and using VEX 123, which doesn't require a device, doesn't require an iPad or a desktop or anything else along those lines, to introduce these teachers to computer science and STEM. And he's doing a wonderful job of doing that and building the capacity amongst the teachers that before never had an opportunity due to lack of internet or lack of devices to learn STEM themselves, and then obviously to introduce STEM to their students. That's a wonderful example of what they've been able to do. I mentioned the local school district that we work with here, Woodland Hills. They've done wonderful things around STEM education. Woodland Hills, at one time, it might still be true, had more NFL players than any school in the country. This is a school that was known for its athletics. This is a school that was known for football, and now they're transforming themselves into a STEM school also, where now they have STEM embedded into their day. Every single day, every student is coding or building a robot. K-12, it's incorporated into their core academic subjects. You don't have a separate STEM subject, but instead they're using VEX 123 in their second grade language arts classroom. They're using VEX IQ in their sixth grade math classroom. They have a lending library at their high school where parents can come and take out a VEX Go kit and take it home and build and code a robot with their son or daughter. They also have a mother and daughter STEM club, which has been tremendously successful, in which the moms after school come with their daughter and they build and code robots together. And they have different guest speakers come in and talk about engineering professions and talk about STEM professions and really broaden the perspective of both the mothers and the daughters around STEM education. So those are the wonderful things. And what you have now is second and third grade students talking about not just I want to grow up and play in the NFL, I want to grow up and be an engineer. And that's a wonderful story. That's a wonderful thing.
That's a great story. It's an amazing story that all that is happening. When you work with parents and when parents come up to you, what are they saying to you? Are they saying thank you? Are they saying, how do I learn more? How do I bring this home?
So I'll tell you another great story about this. I was invited one year to I think it was the state championship in Tennessee. So Tennessee State Championship, the people running that event invited me down. They wanted me to see what was going on, and I'm staying in line, and I'm waiting to I think buy a hamburger for lunch. I get a tap on my shoulder. I turn around, and there's a short woman standing there, and she's seen me on the VEX videos and stuff like that, and she goes, I just want to thank you for all that you're doing. I said, oh, that's so great. Thank you very much. She goes, she was like, my son is now is a third year engineering student at Stanford. When he was in middle school, he hated school. It was everything that we could do to get him to school every day. It was a fight every morning between my husband and I to try to get him on the bus every single day. Then he joined a robotics club. And that robotics club absolutely changed his life and turned him around to now, again, he's a third-year engineering student at Stanford. So to give back, my husband and I come to these competitions and we volunteer because we know what it's done for us and we've seen how it's changed the life of our son and it changed our lives. And we want other parents and other people to be able to see that also. So that's a story I've gotten more than once. And that's what honestly gets me out of bed every single morning. It makes me come to work.
That's a fantastic story. Do you see many parents purchasing VEX kits for their school? I mean, do these make good holiday gifts?
Yeah, they buy them for Christmas. Yeah, they'll ask if they can go on the VEX. Like they'll ask, which is the funny part. Like, are we allowed to buy this on the VEX website for Christmas? Like, yeah, sure, go ahead, knock yourself out. But no, you do get that a lot. Oftentimes, what ends up happening is you have the parents become very involved, just like like in football, or baseball, or any other after-school sport in which they get involved. They join the booster club. They got the T-shirts, everything else like that. The parents really rally around and do the same thing here. And honestly, when you at VEX Worlds here, that's what you hear from the parents there. They'll talk about how their school had a great middle school program, but there was no high school program. So it was like, okay, so they would go to the school board meeting and tell the story about everything that their son or daughter has learned as a result of being in this club or this after school activity. And we need to do this at the high school. And that's what ends up happening. That's how these programs kind of grow organically that way. So yeah, the parents see this with their kids. I was at VEX Worlds last year and I was talking to a dad and he was talking about how his son spent the entire weekend trying to debug his code for his robot. And he was so engrossed with it, he actually lost his phone and his mother kept on trying. He was over his friend's house. His mother kept on trying to call him, but he lost his phone, but didn't realize he lost his phone because he was so engrossed on his laptop trying to fix this bug in his code. And his dad was so proud of the fact that over the course of 2.5 days, his son, who I think was about 12, had no contact with his phone at all, to the point that his mother was trying to call him and they couldn't get a hold of him because he was so engrossed in trying to solve that challenge. So Jeff, I got like hundreds of those stories. That's one of the best parts of my job is hearing this feedback, as you said, from the parents and the teachers and stuff. And it's fantastic to hear.
Well, I'm certainly a fan of everything that you've been working on in your team. I will end with this. About 7 years ago, I got called in. I was working as an instructional coach in a high school. And our principal called me in and said, do you know anything about robotics? And of course I said, sure, because
I've seen Star Wars, right?
Yeah, make it till you make it, right? Next thing I know, it's, hey, we want to start up this VEX program. Why don't you go work with the science teacher? You guys can be buddies. And long and short, we actually ended up winning 2 rounds of VEX competitions by making a pancake maker. That was essentially a cube where, it goes in one side with batter. Somehow it heated up the thing. And at the end, it flipped the pancake. That thing took us about 8 months to figure out. I'm sure it could take you 5 minutes, but it was just an amazing experience of putting together a team and getting kids involved. And, technology 8 years ago, right? But I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We had a bunch of parts. We had some resources and a few online connections. And my goodness, it was one of the best times of my career, just sitting there trying to watch these kids figure this stuff out. And it was all remote controlled. And we took it on the bus and we got pancake batter all over ourselves. It was the best time ever. So if you're interested out there in learning a little bit more about VEX Robotics, Jason, tell us, where can we go to learn more information?
So you can obviously go to our website at vexrobotics.com. If you are interested in a particular platform, we have teach pages for every platform. So you can go to, for example, teach123.vex.com or teachgo.vex.com or teachiq.vex.com. You can email me. My email is jason@vex.com. My Twitter handle is @McKennaJ72. You can reach out to me that way also. If you follow me on social media, you'll see all the great pictures and stuff I'll be sharing over the course of VEX Worlds, over the course of the next 2 weeks here. And yeah, Jeff, you bring up a great point. It just getting involved and getting started. That first step is always the hardest, but I guarantee you won't regret it.
And again, I want to say thank you to Jason for joining us and the entire VEX Robotics team. If you're looking for more information, head on over to vexrobotics.com today. Check out all the great stuff and get your students involved in STEM education. And that wraps up this episode of Digital Learning Today. On behalf of Jason and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to the TeacherCast Educational Network, hosted by Jeff Bradbury. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter @TeacherCast or online at www.teachercast.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.